What's up, Meta Nerds? This video is all about the MG-100 Star Fortress SF-17, also known as the SF-17 Heavy Bomber, or more simply, the Resistance Bomber. It was manufactured by Slane & Corporal, the company that gave us the V-19 Torrent and the B-Wing. There is no info on its cost, but at 29.67 meters, or just over 97 feet long, the Resistance Bomber was about 3 Wookiees longer than the Y-Wing Bomber, and at 15.3 meters, or 50 feet wide, it was about 3 Rancors across. At 21.65 meters, or 71 feet tall, it was nearly the same height of an AT-AT. This heavy bomber had a crew of 5, a pilot, bombardier, flight engineer, and 2 gunners. So let's take a look inside to see where everything is and how it all works. Starting up in the cockpit, we see that the flight controls and computer hub are both located at this forward section, with the flight engineer sitting right behind the pilot. A hallway extends from this cockpit all the way through the main body of the ship, and we can see that the bombardier is located here, where he can release the payload by using this targeting pedestal. These large yellow devices here are the artificial gravity projectors, and right before the aft bulkhead, we can see a secondary station for the flight engineer. Continuing down this corridor, we can see where the rear ball turret is located, which was operated by the rear gunner and assisted by this remote-linked laser cannon array. Right above the rear bulkhead, we see another remotely operated turret, and each of the stabilizing wings on the side of this ship also had wing-mounted laser cannons, along with a forward-mounted laser cannon right underneath the cockpit. And there was also another ball turret located on the very bottom of the ship, which was a Merson Munitions EM-1919 paired repeating laser cannon. These large engines here were the sublight ion thrusters, but sadly we don't have a top speed for this vehicle. The hyperdrive was located here, and these 3 devices were the power conduits, which made it so that its magazine of proton bombs could be remotely released. Power relays which kept the entire ship running were located right here, and there are several heat exchange vents and radiator panels. To help try and prevent lock-ons from enemy starfighters, or from weapon emplacements, it had highly advanced electronic countermeasures, which were located right above the deflector shield generator. And this nub towards the bottom of the ship was the targeting sensor and active tracking array. Now, of course, the main attraction of this ship is its proton bombs. They were all neatly stored on these racks, which contained 1,048 proton bombs in total. Compare this to the payload of the TIE bomber, which could fire concussion missiles, proton rockets, or torpedoes, but it could only drop up to 4 proton bombs or 64 thermal detonators. So even though the MG-100 Star Fortress doesn't fire missiles, rockets, or torpedoes, it does have plenty of laser cannons and contain more than 250 times the amount of proton bombs found on the TIE bomber. Atmosphere was generated on the ship, but we still see them wearing some life support systems, just in case the ship was damaged, or if there was an issue with the sealing mechanism, which was supposed to keep atmosphere in while letting proton bombs pass through. The racks that the proton bombs were stored on were magnetized in a way that they actually accelerated the proton bombs downward. So even though they look like they're falling, of course it wouldn't work like that in space, and these proton bombs are actually being propelled out of the bomber when delivering its payload. The SF-17 Heavy Bomber was actually contracted for the New Republic to help in its efforts of mopping up the Imperial remnant. With the signing of the Galactic Concordance and the Empire's official surrender, most of these bombers went to the scrapyard because of the New Republic Senate's demilitarization. Leia had been following signs that there was some sort of military organization growing stronger in the unknown regions, and so the Resistance made sure that a lot of these bombers fell into their hands, and they would eventually be used against the First Order when they emerged from the unknown regions. These bombers weren't available during the assault on Starkiller Base, because there were only 2 squadrons of them in total, with Cobalt Squadron and Crimson Squadron, both sent on mercy missions to the planet Atera, where they were dropping supplies and not bombs. When these were used in combat, however, they were always escorted by fighters, and were trained to fly in a pattern where that all of those laser cannons and ball turrets would have overlapping fields of fire. This way they could try and take out any starfighters before they were able to destroy the ship by focusing fire on the bomb bay. Of course, even a single TIE SF would be able to set off a catastrophic chain reaction if they were able to cause some of these proton bombs to go off. So that's it for the Resistance bomber, but you definitely want to hear these cool facts and behind the scenes stuff. When used for non-military missions, the bombers could drop hundreds of probe droids, which were used to spy on the First Order or criminal organizations. And its ECM jamming equipment could be combined with additional technology that can hide the heat signature of the ship, making it nearly undetectable to most sensors. The MG-100s saw widespread civilian use, being used by mining corporations that would drop explosives to break up ice and rock, and even saw use in governments as rescue ships, fuel tankers, and even firefighting craft. Some explorers also used them as scouting vehicles, and were used by those making star maps, and of course the enormous bomb bay could make for excellent storage. This ship was particularly well defended from attacks from the rear, which is often the most vulnerable part of other ships. That being said, the bomber was most susceptible from attacks from above, as you only had this single turret on top. These proton bombs would be loaded horizontally onto two enormous clips, which would then be turned vertically and inserted into the bomber. The MG-100 Star Fortress 17 was based off of a real bomber used during World War II, the B-17 Flying Fortress. The B-17 and the SF-17 both had several gunner turrets located around the ship, and the visuals of the Star Fortress dropping proton bombs was a nod to the classic images of flying fortresses dropping its payload, and kept up a tradition of Star Wars vehicles being based on those seen in World War II. So that's it for the Resistance Bomber. If you liked it, go ahead and hit that like button, and if you want to check out our social media, or ways that you can help support this channel, be sure to check out the description down below. If you want to see more, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and hit the bell icon so that you get notifications. But more important than all that, remember, we should be celebrating the fact that we finally have a well-designed heavy bomber in Star Wars. And the Force will be with you, always.